I'm Dallin Stanford, and alongside former US Eagles Sevens captain Madison Hughes. They obviously met last week. It was a tough one for the US, but first a moment to celebrate here for Steve Thomasine. His 50th tournament for the United States. He's been behind everything that's been good about them over the years.
Yeah, I mean, what a warrior Steve Thomasine has been for this USA team. Just the journey he's gone on from making his debut so young, having 2 ACL injuries, having to fight back from each of them, to now become such a performer on the World Series, and a guy respected, I think, by all the teams. And playing alongside him, he was a guy you always knew was going to fight for every single moment. And it's very, very cool to be here for this moment for him. For the US generally, they'll be really, really disappointed and devastated with how last weekend went. So they're out here to show that was an aberration. They can take it, and they're going to try and set the tone right from the very beginning. New Zealand went all the way, so they're trying to build on that and show they can do that every week.
The referee, Francisco Gonzalez, approaching 100 matches on the series. It's Pool A, our first look at the United States in white, New Zealand in black on the right. Back-to-back golds for New Zealand. Have them as the form team in this tournament. And the All Black Sevens look to receive this. Leroy Carter, who's been instrumental for their side, goes to McGarvey Black. Back to the short side. Amanaki Nicole busts through a couple. Kayvon Williams comes in to have a bite. And Dixon loops around. Weber with a little stutter gets on the outside. Moses Leo attacks the line with Dylan Collier, recently celebrating his 50th tournament combined, in fact. Leroy Carter, player of the final last week, goes against David Still, who's cleaned out. Always such a ferocious battle between these two brilliant rugby nations. Weber fires it back to his forwards. Nicole finds Carter. That almost creates something out of nothing there, but the flag goes up.
Fantastic defensive set from the US, really gave absolutely nothing. Really impressed by the line speed they were bringing the wide channels, and that took away New Zealand's options. We had that interesting move. New Zealand liked to get the ball in Joe Weber's hands, have the wraparound. That gives options on both sides. But the US were covering everything, going with their 7-up defense, something New Zealand really brought back to the World Series, and now a number of teams have picked up.
First chance for Aaron Cummins and the United States. Malachi Esdale, their best strike with ball in hand. Wide ball, looping one. Oh, it's been picked up in the air. Moses Leo sets off on a run. Finally brought down by Terry Baker. Collier is there. New Zealand numbers on the right-hand side. They're busting them up the middle, and the flick is outstanding. New Zealand get the first score. Amanaki Nicole touches it down against the runner play.
New Zealand get the try. Looked like a pretty clear knock-on in the tackle that was missed, so that's unfortunate for the US, but it starts with their own mistake. It's a poor pass from Kayvon Williams, and Marcus Tupuola has to go down to that ball. New Zealand striking here. Leo, you thought he was away. You can see the ball rolling forward there. That is a knock-on that was missed, but New Zealand do get the try, strike first, and now it's how can the US react? Last weekend didn't go their way. You come in with such optimism, you get knocked back. Can you keep going? Can you keep going again? New Zealand are so good at controlling, managing the game. They're going to make it difficult for you, but for the US, they need to take this kickoff, they need to build into the game, and they need to do better when they got the ball in hand.
USA lost last week, 36 points to 15 at home against New Zealand. A different tournament now in BC Place. And good morning to our Kiwi fans, and good afternoon to our United States fans. It does fall for New Zealand yet again. Weber is there, linking up superbly with Collier. Carter, they've dominated possession so far. Naroki McGarvey Black goes on the outside and then pulls it back in to find Sammy Dixon, the 33-year-old. Whoops one over the top, still almost has it. Moses Leo falls on this one. It's a gift for the winger from New Zealand, and Leo has the second score for NZ. It's a perfect start in Canada so far for New Zealand.
All Black 7 striking once again, and it was simple play, just moving back and forth. Missed ball goes to the ground, and it gave the US an opportunity here as it sits up. But David Still just slightly misreads it, and rather than claiming it for himself, knocks the ball into Leo's hands, and he's such a dangerous runner. Got such pace that if you give him the ball with no one in front of him, he's going to score pretty much every single time. And for New Zealand, they're just chaining tries together here, putting pressure on the US. And so far, the US defensively haven't been able to meet that challenge other than that first set where they did very well. And the US need to claim this kickoff. They didn't get the last one. It's going to make it very, very difficult if you're just allowing the other team to have the ball the whole time.
Moses Leao came into the squad in the beginning of 2021. One of the youngsters that has really shone on the series. Kayvon Williams now. Marcus Tupuola. He cuts back in. Joe Weber brings him to the ground. Under 3 to play. Mike Friday's side. Needs something special here. Esdale across to Stevie Thomasine. Haven't called his name yet since he has run out. Baker, not a lot to do in that corner, but they pinch it yet again. Leo moves it away. Here comes Weber, the veteran for New Zealand. Holds it up. Leo provides space for Dixon. Gets a nice offload, and New Zealand, numbers queuing up on the outside. Dylan Collier dives.
Come off.
And he may have scored in a brilliant finish. We will see without television match official.
Check for you now, Pancho.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to tell on the first angle. I think Collier, he's got a good nose for the line. Made his 50th appearance for the All Black Sevens last week. So David Still, I think if he tackles him there, he goes for the push, but if he tackles him, you can put his foot down, and it does look like Dylan Collier's line. Sorry, foot may have touched the line there. We'll see what the referee says.
Does that turf count if it's leaving the field?
Yeah, there's that. So I think it's got to be the other angle
Pancho,
again.
I have a decision for you.
Yes.
The player is in touch. So the player is in touch.
Okay, some touch versus. I'm try to have
you
line
can see
out
the left
5
foot just touching the ground there.
Correct.
So David Still
That's
does
correct.
just enough. Still stand
no
by. I
try.
think if he goes for the wrap, it's going to be
careful, they're
an
ready
even
to
more
open, please.
obvious
Timo.
decision. But just in touch does just enough. But for the US, poor turnover. And then New Zealand just moving the ball. And within kind of one width of the field, they're getting in behind the Eagles' defense. And worrying signs for the US defensively so far.
Oh, that's even more worrying as well. As Leroy Carter flies in for New Zealand. They do have their third try in the first half.
And New Zealand just capitalizing on the mistake from the line out for the US, and Carter goes in for the try. And you done that work, you got the decision, and it's nowhere real close. So it looks like miscommunication there or an overthrow. It's hard to tell. Aaron Cummings leaning backwards, looks like he hadn't quite timed it right. They hadn't timed it right with the throw. So it's unfortunate, and for the US, it's been a half to forget. Had a great start, really, with that defensive set, but since then, been way too loose with the ball in hand, turning it over very, very quickly, and defensively making it way too easy for New Zealand to go in for the tries.
Leroy Carter, HSBC Dream Team, as voted by the fans last week in LA. He also got it in Sydney. Has them up. Thomasine now with NZ. 19-0 they lead. The USA with Cummins. Finds a hard-running Kayvon Williams. Brings it to the line. Esdale goes to his left-hand side. Tupuola now finds Perry Baker, two-time World 7 Series Player of the Year. They'll need something special out of him. Esdale cuts back in. No-look pass. Thomasine now. Aaron Cummins yet again. Davenport University product. Finds the big frame of David Still. Gets a couple on him.
Take a release.
Thomasine yet again for the United States to close out the first half. That's better stuff with Esdale on the outside. Oh, it's a hard one-handed fling towards Baker.
Yeah, and the US have just got it behind him. Malachi Esdale has had such a good season for the US. He's really been stepping up. But I think he just has a tendency to hold on to the ball slightly too long sometimes there. He's releasing that before contact. I mean, Perry Baker, everyone knows what he can do. I think he's gone, but chooses to go through contact. And that just makes it a much more difficult pass. And that was the first time in this game we've seen the US make any sort of indent to the New Zealand defense, but turn it over once again.
Dixon has possession for New Zealand. Collier taps. Finds Amanaki Nicole. And now it just opens up in the middle. And it's far too easy. And Narochi Magabi Black has the All Black Sevens' fourth try in the first half.
Yeah, it comes from the infraction at the line-out. Looked like several of the US forwards didn't quite know what was happening. But here, just a huge, gaping gap in the US defense as it looked like fly-off Tupuola had stepped in while the center slid out. And for the US, really emblematic of what they've done throughout this half defensively, which is, other than that first set, which was great, has not been near their standards.
And it's half-time. It's the series leaders, New Zealand, up 26-zip against the USA. Well, New Zealand just picking up where they left off last week, of course. They were very strong against the United States, but just strong overall, of course. Back-to-back golds, such a quality side.
No, I mean, such a good team and just such a controlled team. Like they do have players who can have spectacular moments, but for most of their wins, that's not really what it takes. It just comes from consistently putting the pressure on your opposition, not making mistakes, and waiting for the opposition to make a mistake, whether that's in defense or attack. And so far, the US have been making those mistakes, and New Zealand have been capitalizing on them. And that's what they do. They move the ball to the right areas, and they say, can you tackle us? And if you can, okay, we're going to move it to another area. Are you going to get it right there? And sooner or later, most teams make a mistake, whether it's a missed tackle or a mistaken alignment that opens up opportunities. And when they do that, New Zealand capitalize. And then defensively, they go with their 7-up defense. And that makes that they're not an obvious area where the opposition should move the ball in an attack. And so that means you've got a lot of the time where teams are looking unsure, not going forward physically, not going forward with the energy and enthusiasm they often do. And then New Zealand are able to bring their big bodies to the breakdown, cause a turnover. And the US needs to get something going in the second half.
Five.
Welcome back to beautiful BC Place Island, Canada. The home side coming up next. You'll hear the roar from the crowd, and then Australia against Chile, the invitational side following that. But meanwhile, it's the series leaders, gold medalists from last week, New Zealand, that lead 26-0 to the USA in white that received this one. Mike Friday's side need to start off this second half well if they can, and that's a forward pass. And that's not what the doctor ordered, Madison.
No, just a careless mistake from the US. I think spotting New Zealand, had their defense set up out to the left, try and come back, but if you do that really quickly, if you don't delay at all, it makes it hard for your forwards or for whoever it is to get up off the ground, get up with enough depth, and then reload to attack back onto the ball. And the US didn't give enough time, or the players didn't work hard enough, it's one or the other, to get enough depth to then hit back onto the ball, and it's turned over. And for the US, again, you come out of the half, all that energy, all that enthusiasm. This is what we're going to do in the second half. When it immediately goes against you, you've got to get back up for it.
Yes.
New Zealand have Weber bursting onto this one. It's a beautiful little flick to Leroy Carter. And the man that's all action has his second score in this game for NZ.
New Zealand showing how it's done from the scrum. Weber just hits onto this ball at such pace, and the US are asking their hooker to get out of the scrum and then get Weber, and I think that's just asking too much of him. The US players, their backs have got to see Weber coming around. He's hitting onto that ball with so much pace. Kevin Williams and the wing, they can cover the other two guys. They need a back to help out, because it's just asking far too much of Steve Thomasine to get out. And whether Thomasine's talking to Tupuola saying, you know what, I can get him, stay out, miscommunication. And once again, New Zealand 7 strike and extend this lead, and worrying signs for the US. I mean, this I think is going to be even more upsetting than last week. Last week the conditions were largely at play. Here they'll come up with the optimism, and it's not going how they want.
33-0, Leroy Carter. Been a sensation since joining the 7-a-side game. Kevon Williams for the United States. Makanufa is on the field looking to spark some magic as Thomasine finds Perry Baker. Hasn't seen many touches so far in this game. Anufe, bounce pass. Oh, and then they lose it there. Does Channel, and it's just not working out for the United States early doors here. Well, I say early doors, it's the afternoon already.
Yeah, afternoon and second half, so whether it's early doors, it's not going their way. I mean, two new players onto the field coming on, trying to have that positive impact. But it's really more of the same. I mean, Maka Unafe, player been on the World Series for a long time now, can have such a dynamic impact, either starting or off the bench. But he'll be disappointed with that pass. And Channel could have recovered it, but not able to do so. And New Zealand once again deep in the US 22 with the scrum here, and able to set their dangerous backs up with a good attacking platform.
Yeah, they're a side that have won here twice, 2016 and 2020. Mugabe Black waits the delayed ball. Nicole is there, he scoops it up. It's a big unit is Amanaki Nicole. And now Collier looking to draw and unleash Ormond on that far side. Kicks it hand. Lewis Ormond. Skills aplenty from the NZ Flyer off the bench and on the board.
Lewis Ormond showing he can get it done with the kicking game as well. And yeah, really well worked here. I mean, I think David Still, yeah, I think he's close enough. I think he would have got away tackling Lewis Ormond there, but good skills from the All Black Sevens to finish under pressure. And it really just has been a story of US inaccuracy, mistakes, and New Zealand making them pay every single time.
That's try number 6. Ormond has his name on the board as well. Nice skill from the 29-year-old. They, of course, will face the other sides in their pool a bit later. Samoa is one that challenged them. They lost to them last week in the pool stages, and that's the nature of sevens. You still go on and win the cup.
It really is, and I mean, that's going to be what the US have to do after this game. Say, hey, we win that game against Samoa, we're back into a pretty strong position. So the US cannot allow this game to affect how the rest of their tournament goes, and New Zealand, they'll want revenge for that loss to Samoa last week.
The Eagles do catch this one. Talapusi has possession for the United States. Anufe. That's the third error in a row from the United States. Gives a chance for Aquila Rakalasoa to fire one back. Naroki Mugabe Black. As Roderick Solo. So elusive is this player. Stepping left and right. Then finally they link up again with Ormond, who just scored for New Zealand. Holds it up, a delayed ball. Collier is there. And Naroki Mugabe Black links up for try number 7 for New Zealand. They have dismantled the United States.
The All Black Sevens striking once again from a US turnover. So in this game, the US have had 6 handling errors, 7 tackles, 7 missed tackles. I think that really tells pretty much the full story. We used to say if you have 3 handling errors in a game, it's going to be very, very difficult to win. The US have had 6, and they're going to have to look at that, examine exactly why this is happening. And it's not even under pressure from the All Black Sevens. It's passes far away from the line, just loose passes, knock-ons. And yeah, the US is going to be really, really disappointed with this, especially after last week. And I wonder if that's creeping in. You've got that extra butterflies in the stomach of wanting to set things right, want to set a tone. But it's going to really, really test them and challenge. But that's the beauty of sevens, is games can go against you, but if you can have that mental resilience to come back, the tournament can still go your way.
Yeah, 3-day tournament, 2 matches per day, so a different format from last week, combined event. In our 24th season for the men's HSBC World Rugby 7 Series. Anufe played some Major League Rugby in recent times. So Adam Channel up the middle. And out of Long Beach, California with Belmont Shaw. Rides to the 10. Anufe yet again. Short ball for Talapusi, looking to attack the line. Gets it back to Anufe. Tupola at a standing start. Gets his jump. And dishes it off to Thomasine. In his 50th event. But it's been scooped up. Rakalasoa flicks it over the top. Spencer is there. Peyton Spencer, the teenager, 18 years of age, lays it back for Rakalasoa. And New Zealand continue their momentum and form in this game. Roderick Solo has numbers on the left-hand side, and they put it down the chain. And it's Brady Rush, who was the star of the final last week, scores yet another for the All Black Sevens.
Please say clearly if you were giving
New
something.
Zealand striking from the turnover of the breakdown. It looked like the referee was playing advantage for a New Zealand knock-on in the tackle, but puts his arm down. New Zealand get the turnover of the breakdown, and then the US just had so many men behind the ball, so many men inside the ball, that when New Zealand moved it wide, there was no one in front of Brady Rush. He was really good last weekend, and we'll be looking to build on that this weekend as he gets more game time for the All Black Sevens.
Well, when it works out, it works out. The kick over as well. 52-0. Brady Rush played in North America, the Premier Rugby Sevens last season as well in the United States. And now scoring here. Rakalasoa doesn't hit his mark, so the US will have the final say here.
And it's a big loss for the US here, I think, and points difference could prove important in this pool depending on how results go. So it's going to be really, really damaging for them. Probably one of the bigger losses to New Zealand in quite a long time. So it's really unfortunate for the US. And here they are, scrum, time up on the clock. Lots of subs on the field, lots of new energy. Can they get some sort of positive moment out of this game that they can build on as they look ahead to the rest of the day?
Please find the hooker.
Tala Talapusi, the 23-year-old, feeds here for the US. Final play of their first match.
Full. Square.
I mentioned they'll take the field a bit later today. Will the US looking to bounce back? New Zealand continue their great run of form of late. Quick tap. Channel finds Tupuola. Just as handling errors creeping in this game has been very costly, as you said, for the United States. And Nufe now tries to create some magic, and Nufe does well. There's Gavin Tiramora on his shoulder, looking to recycle to the right. Thomasine, flat ball to Channel. Tupuola, this is better from the US Eagles. Into the 22. Looking for a short runner. The kick through. Not timed to perfection. And New Zealand have Solo. And his fancy feet finds Rush linking up here with Roka Lasoa. And just tripped in the end was Brady Rush, but it's okay. Nicole, wild whip down to that far side. And it sits up in the end for Mugabe Black, who does lose it in the end. So the US will remain scoreless in this game, and that is a full-time whistle. And it's New Zealand, 8 tries. They beat the USA 52 points to 0.
What a comprehensive, dominating win for the All Black Sevens. They'll be absolutely very, very happy with that start to this tournament. No